I've got a special guest coming today to join in on a conversation that I think would be interesting for a lot of people. She's not only an architect, she's so many things that I wouldn't want to spoil it. I just want her to come and tell her journey, her architectural journey in so many ways in which she's touched people's lives, help communities, help private clients, and in fact help herself such that the things in which she does really touches on many points. And those points are things that people or you can pick up from and know that these are the things in which architecture and the practice can do so many things in so many ways, right? So you just have to sit down, join us, and enjoy the conversation and know what exactly it is she's about and what exactly she does on a wider community. All right, so thank you again for coming. It's actually been a pleasure to have you here. But I think there's so much that we are going to discuss, there's so much we are going to talk about. But I want to start from the very beginning. I want you to start from your origins. What was the beginning point for you in architecture? What was your genesis to your whole journey?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. The journey, I think, started in my childhood when my parents decided to move and build a house, and I was on the construction site at the age of, I think I was 7, 8.
Oh.
And then I saw architectural drawings from the architect, and then I started like drawing on grid paper plans. And I think it was also a lot of furnishing my future room. And I loved the smell of the construction site. I loved to join my father there on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
And that was the beginning. And then there was a time in my life, maybe around 15, where I thought I would like to become a stage designer in theater.
Really?
So I was a lot in theater, and I really like this, like mimicking building structures, like this 2D, which is like an illusion of a 3D setup. Also, then I think every student of architecture or person is dreaming also of like film architecture at one point. So I also found this is quite exciting to build up entire cities for a film set, and then making that possible in a short time.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it was also, of course, like spatial experiences. I also remember a vacation with my family to former Yugoslavia, Dubrovnik, and that city was like made entirely of stone. And I still have this image that I suddenly read the space, like I understood that the floor and the facade and everything was one material. Okay. And yeah, so it's all these memories and interests. And then when I finished school, I knew I would want to
be an architect.
Become an architect, yeah.
So from there, which school did you go to? How was your educational experience like?
That was quite interesting because after school I traveled through Asia and India, and that influenced me deeply. I was also like drawing a lot then there, like temples and all kinds of architectures. But I also think I learned a lot about the non-Western world, like how space is lived, how there is traditional architectures outside of like what I was like socialized with. And then I started studying in Germany, and then I went to the academy in Vienna to study there. And then in the year 2000, there was like Michael Sorkin was my professor in urban studies, and he announced this collaboration with KNUST, and then
Okay.
excursion to Ghana. And then I applied, and that was in 2000, 25 years ago. And so I have a 25 years head in February anniversary, Ghana anniversary.
I hope you celebrate it.
Absolutely, yes. Actually, I celebrated with the architect I was clustered with back then. So we were both students of architecture.
Okay.
So it was like we came to Kumasi as a larger group, and then there was an equivalent number of like students in KNUST, and then we were clustered to investigate certain neighborhoods in Kumasi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how did that collaboration go with investigating the neighborhoods in Kumasi?
I mean, that really changed my perception of space, and it was mind-blowing to me. At that time, in Europe, there was a huge focus on public urban space, and also like these empty large spaces. And then I came to Kumasi and saw and learned how the lived city is so vibrant and is basically somehow overtaking the built city.
Yeah.
And that I made a real theory from that. Like I still now in my teaching, I talk a lot about the built city and the lived city, and that all started in Kumasi, I would say.
Okay. Let's break it down just a bit. For those who are not aware, what would be the lived city and what would be the built city?
Yeah. So the built city is like the physical city, like what is tangible and what is there and what is also fixed. And the lived city is like all the objects in motion, such as vehicles, such as headpans, and then the actors are like the people moving.
Right.
And so the lived city is made by these actors and objects in motion. And in a place like Kumasi, at that time at least, it was very fascinating to see that a car becomes basically a display for cloth, and therefore is basically then a shop to buy cloth. Or that that everything was like appropriated by the lived city in a very dynamic way. And I was very fascinated by that, and I think it's still... You can make a real theory on urbanity on that. Yeah.
Right. So after that, you went back to Austria, or?
Actually, some 2 years later, I decided to do my thesis project on Kumasi, and it was a bit of a provocation, this thesis project, because they asked us to design a larger object architecture, and because of what I said before, that I was so interested in like the dynamic city, the lived city, I titled my thesis Listening Kumasi, and I came up with a kind of urban acupuncture concept. So I identified interesting spaces and tried to do some spatial intervention and call this like a network of spaces for communication. I mean, at that time already I was very interested. I would have been interested in designing art spaces, but it was not yet relevant.
Yeah, okay.
And therefore I called it like spaces for communication. And I like this idea of like that there is something at point A and B and C, and that they are somehow in relation, and that also the journey between is of interest. So as I said, listening Kumasi, urban acupuncture, and then applying different strategies to spatially intervene at these locations. And that heavily influenced my entire career. Yes.
I'm glad it did, because now you're here and then you're doing so many things. So let's move on from there. Where did your journey take you to after your thesis? Where did you practice?
Actually, I was immediately hired by a quite famous Austrian architect, Wolf Prix. He founded Coop Himmelblau, an amazing Austrian architectural firm. It's a lot about signature architecture, so it was a bit like the opposite to like what I did in Kumasi, but he asked me to teach for him. So after graduation, I immediately started teaching at the other art school in Vienna, and the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. And I was then responsible for special projects, same as my thesis was somehow very special. And I went to Mexico with students. And that was also quite interesting because I was a bit hesitant. Because I knew I would like to continue with Ghana. And then I thought, why going to Mexico? And then I worked and built with students in Mexico.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, it's also a good opportunity to test what Ghana is for me afterwards. And then I understood my heartbeats for Ghana.
For red, gold, and green. Red, gold, and green. That is great. So you began teaching, you did a bit of research and special projects with students in Mexico. What were some of those findings that came out of
maybe
travels?
It's interesting also, like, if we want to focus more on Ghana, that then in the following years while I was teaching, I was a colleague who was also like back then as a student with me in Ghana. We investigated markets in Ghana because it's a very interesting space, and it was a kind of follow-up to my thesis. So we deeper investigated Kumasi Central Market. Then I started also like presenting at conferences, and then I think it was in 2009 I applied for a scholarship, which is like from the Austrian Cultural Ministry, that you choose an architect of your choice to work with, and it's somehow co-financed by the Austrian Cultural Ministry. Very privileged, this project grant. Most people decided at that time to go to New York or LA, and I applied for Joe Addo to work with him in Accra. Yeah. I wanted, actually, from Joe at that time, I wanted to learn construction supervision in Ghana, but there was then some delays in the project, and I worked in the office and learned a lot.
So how did that come about? What exactly did unless it's a bit privileged, so you can't really go into your work with Joe Addo and so much, so you can't really do that. That's unfortunate, but we'll move on from that. So let's see, teaching, research, your path is still going on. There's a bit of a turning. You've come to Ghana. What was next from that point on?
What was next actually was like that I received a request while working with Joe Addo. So I was in Accra, and I received a request from an Austrian Ghanaian NGO in the north, not so far from Wale Wale, if I would be interested in designing an orphanage. And then I said, I'm in Ghana. You can just like make me travel to this village, and I will check it out. And then it was a really beautiful journey started. So I'm very skeptical with the development sector. I don't believe in that. I think.
Why?
No, I think this entire NGOism and also like this outside help in a country like Ghana, I think it's rather a kind of neo-colonial thing, and it's rather destroying the economy than that it's helping in many cases. So, but maybe I shouldn't go too deep into
No, please, you can go as deep as possible.
But for me, like this NGO, I thought I gave it a try, and I'm still like in their advisory board because they really do amazing work. Their name is Pray for Aurora, actually, and they really adjust their concepts all the time, and it's not a kind of outsider top-down idea of I save Africa or something like that. And it was a beautiful commission to me, because I was even like running around with the chief and the eldest to identify the ideal site for structures. And then also like it was like a beautiful client relationship. Then on the one hand it was the NGO, but also the community, and they had some ideas of like doing bigger structures, and I tried to analyze the local dispersed settlement pattern and compound house typologies, and try to translate that into structures And I learned so much from that, and it was also really beautiful to get to deeper understand also traditional vernacular architecture in a village in northern Ghana, and then trying to translate that into our time, but not losing all the beauty and intelligence which is in this typologies.
Okay.
Or these typologies,
All
actually.
right. All right. I mean, you mentioned something that I want you to touch on a bit, where you do not believe in the developer space coming into architecture. I want to know why that is. I know your belief is in the other sector, so let's just touch on a bit of why not work with that sector.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, I was from the very beginning very interested in collaborating with Ghanaians. I also felt like that the creativity is in like mostly with artists, and that also like politics fails often, and in the creative sector, people are creative to try to change their immediate context, or even with big aims changing the world. Yeah, I mean, when I talk about like my criticality about the development sector, it's just like, I don't know, in a country like Ghana, the government could solve a lot, which then outsiders think they need to intervene. And then there is also so much lost in translation, so many misunderstandings, and also like ideas on like putting outside ideas on certain communities. And I'm more interested in like understanding that there is so much indigenous knowledge from other times here, and that also is like spatial knowledge, and to translate that into architectures of our time, I think that's very exciting. And that's on many levels, like as I said, typologically, like how you orient a building and how you give a certain program a certain formal expression, but it's also how should I say? Yeah, it's programmatic. It's typological. It's programmatic, and also on the material level. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's also now a different time. You see, also people becoming interested in earth architecture.
True.
And
one
also,
of them.
And also like looking into stones wherever there is stone, or bamboo if there is bamboo in the coastal region. And that was not at all of interest in the architectural field here, I would say some 20 years ago.
Yeah, quite true. So let's go. How, in working with the communities, how do you extract the information that is needed for you to design for them, and not trying to import Western knowledge and impose it on the people?
I mean, what I also preach to my students is like that you really, I mean, we as architects, we are a bit arrogant because we are somehow trained to go to a site or go to a place and try to read and understand it in some 1, 2, 3 hours, and then we fly a drone, and then we leave, and then we think we can start designing. And I think if you slow down that process, and if you also try to unlearn what you have in your mind and really engage with the situation, so that this helps a lot to read the place differently. And I'm very interested in contextual architecture, which means like that you really take a lot from the specific site and situation. And when I talk about contextual, to me it's like environmentally contextual, but also culturally contextual.
Culturally contextual.
Yeah. And that would then be that you spend quite some time in understanding a situation and place, but then also I think there is also a lot of potential in looking into the respective local languages and seeing like what people have to say in which vocabulary. And that's something where I have my limits. I think in general, architects often come from outside. Like if you go to a village in the north, now you will also not speak the language.
That's true.
But you are a bit closer as a Ghanaian than me, potentially. So then you need also people to support you in. So I'm totally aware of like that. When I come in as like the white lady talking to people, that it might be not necessarily biased, but that I get limited information. So therefore, I always try to set up a team where there's someone speaking the local language in the team and then talking to the people. Or if it's about like interviewing women on like the water situation, that I make sure that a female is interviewing the females, etc. So I think one needs to be careful in how to get information which is a bit deeper.
That's true. Okay. Let's go to another side. You are the founder of Applied Foreign Affairs. Yes. I want you to talk about that. What is it? What exactly do you do with it?
Yeah, so on the one hand, I'm a practicing architect, focusing also like on practice in Ghana. And so my practice or studio is titled NAF's Baerbel Mueller, and NAF's comes from navigations, and that also found its origin in this Listening Kumasi thesis project, like that I always believe in the relational, and it's basically navigations. And Applied Foreign Affairs, that is my lab within the Institute of Architecture at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. And I founded that in 2011 with the aim to work with very small groups of students, like international students coming from our institute in Vienna, and Ghanaian students, or young professionals or artists. And then the first commission was actually coming from this village where I've been working for the NGO Brave Aurora in Guabuliga is actually the name of this village. And so the chief asked me to if I would design a master plan for the village. And then I thought this is a beautiful task to somehow analyze the local typologies and come with a team of students. That was in February 2012. That was the first lab. So we look into rural situations, we look into urban situations. We are also commissioned by artists or artist collectives to design. We designed for the Hadua Arts and Culture Center at the coast in Apam. We designed a bamboo dome, which is a stage. So it's research on all scales, and it's also commissions. At the moment, we work in Tamale on the Tamale Old Airfield, and we transplanted big trees, and we come up with a kind of design for an open public recreational space. So the scope is very wide, and the project setup is like that. For example, I would select 4 students from our institute, and they would be like very international. Like the last team was a Chinese, a Nepalese, an Italian, and a German. And then there would be there had been like Tamale-based photographers joining, and also students of science from UDS. And then we look into certain questions or design. Yeah.
All right. So between Applied Foreign Affairs and NAVS, what is the difference? Because with Applied Foreign Affairs is a lab, and does your practice come into play at the end? What is the relationship? Or
that's an interesting question. Like for many years, I thought I need to strictly separate that, and that it wouldn't be okay to mix it. And now I think it's all nurturing each other. I must also say, like, because I've been the dean of the Institute of Architecture for the last 4 years, and that I had a bit of limited time for my practice. So I continued intensely with like the Applied Foreign Affairs projects, and also had a lot of responsibilities being the dean of the Institute of Architecture. And NAFS was a bit in the background, but I also try to only take commissions which are more like experimental, open, related to artists. Like one which you might have the most visibility is like the Nubuku Foundation,
Yes,
which we
it does.
opened actually. I think it was yesterday, 6 years ago, that Nubuku opened. So you can see here that I'm very interested in institutional spaces and working with artists, because there is more freedom. There is often lack of budgets.
The budgets are wide open, or they are quite tight?
No, tight, because artists struggle on a daily basis. And but I think it's very interesting, and I have the privilege also like that I don't need to live from my practice. I live from my professorship.
Right.
So it's like that I can be very selective in my practice.
Yeah, that is.
And maybe because you asked about NAS, I also really like then to partner with individuals, and often it's Ghanaian architects, so that we it's like project specific collaborations.
Oh, okay. That's quite cool. So let's go back to Apply Foreign Affairs. I saw that you did. Basically, we're going to talk about the publications that you've done, and one I would like to focus on is East Legon Past Forward.
Oh yes.
I initially have never heard about it until quite recently, and so I just want to know more about how it started. I think it was initiated by Rosemary Othner.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you can.
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing like that. I'm close with Martin and Rosemary Ortner, and I admire their architecture, and they have been supportive on many levels. And at one point, Rosemary, like being based in East Legon, like showed me a Botsiman, which is like the indigenous old part of East Legon. Okay. And then I was totally excited, and then we decided to jointly investigate this Abotsiman, and we titled the project East Legon Past Forward. Okay. So it was on the one hand the idea to understand like the typology again, and also like the lifestyle in this remaining village within this like very
city town,
very somehow fancy East Legon, but also like fastly developing East Legon, and also with a kind of interest in preserving it, because it was very clear very soon that there's a lot of pressure on the people living there, that investors want to take over. And of course it's attractive to a family if you get money, if you get land offered elsewhere. But it is some cultural built heritage, and it would be a pity if it disappears. And so we also worked with a mixed team of like students I brought and students we selected from KNUST. And that was a really beautiful 3 weeks, like that everyone individually looked into some aspect in Abotsiman, and then we did this magazine-like publication, and later we also had a panel. I also invited a lot of people, for example, Coach Durban at that time, to write about that situation, but also to come and join the group and talk about it. So it was a very vivid project.
All right. So what do you think will come of it from what you discovered, and what do you think it should be done?
I mean, what we have been aiming for was actually like after investigating, we understood that there is like one house built from mud, which has a lot of meaning for the community. And so the idea was like to really preserve that. But I must also say that We don't push too hard in some long-term goals. So the work is also very processual. And then we see that we research a situation, we propose something. And then if there is nothing coming from the other side, or if we feel like this is a bit of a dead end, that we stop. And at that time, we created the awareness of like that this structure definitely should be preserved. But we didn't fully continue, but would be open. And that's maybe the policy all the time, that we engage long term. So there was a time in Applied Foreign Affairs where there had been interesting invitations. So we went to Lagos, we went to Conakry, and we have also been working in the DRC in Kisangani. But at one point I felt it's more sustainable to be long-term engaged, and like in the last 4 or 5 years we concentrate on Tamale and these inner urban open spaces. And so I think this quick coming and doing something is very exciting, but maybe it's, I mean, you know, architecture is slow. And when you really want to leave something tangible or really realize something, it needs long-term engagement, and it needs also availability. If you do experimental architecture, for example, building with bamboo or trying something new, that you also have the responsibility to be available for maintenance, etc.
That's true. Yeah. So, what would be what's research that you've done that stands out most to you, and then why?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I'm somehow a lot in the moment, and I'm totally in love with Tamale. And I mean, I came back from Tamale some 2 days ago, and we have been looking into like how to continue on this airfield where we transplanted big trees. We formed a team in the last weeks of students from Kumasi and Vienna. And the next lab project will be on site in February, and I titled it Urban Furnishings. So we will look into the design of like public furniture under these trees. We met with community members last Sunday to also get a kind of brief from, because they are ultimately the clients. So I'm at the moment very excited about this project. Talking on architectural scale, maybe, I mean, there is like, we build a market in Gorbuliga, which is very visible. I think that's the most successful build project we did. So then there was no physically built market. Women would sell on, they would walk through the village and sell in the headpans. And then some 3 ladies would bring out their tables under a tree in the center of the village. And so they felt like they need a physical market structure. And I was a bit skeptical if really, because there's a lot of white elephant projects. And so there's sometimes architecture is not the solution, or building is not the solution. And we came up with the design of a modular typology and built like some 3 platforms and 2 roofs, and also the potential to expand. And it really became such a big success, like that people from Valle Valle and neighboring communities come to sell and buy in Gorbuliga. So it really has an economic impact also now on the village and the region, I would say. But also it was interesting that we wanted it to be a bit of a landmark architecture. And at the beginning, market women struggled a bit, that it was not like rigidly like parcel surface, and that they would need to find their space. But I think I'm most excited about this project in regards to building.
I've seen the project. I've seen some pictures. It would be great for me to see in person. I hope I have the time. I kind of like the way it's a bit open, and the roofs. So I think it's about 3 roofs or so, and they are spaced apart. It just gives that impression that we are not putting you in a box, but you have that open space to sell your wares. People can come and move through, and all that. Moving from there, let's talk a bit about some of the other projects you've done. I wanted to focus on the market for one, which you've already done. So let's go back to one of your notable projects, and then we'll jump to another. That would be the Nubuke extended gallery.
Yeah.
One, I've been there multiple times, and every time I'm there, there's just something about the place that I like all the time. And even with that, I appreciate the art even more anytime there's an exhibition there. So let's start from the beginning of when the commission came to you, and then what transpired.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. It was like that. At that time, Odile Tevi and Kofi Setochi were directing Nubuka, and they approached me. I think it was in August 2016. I received an email. We want to expand. We need more exhibition space. And it was a very short, clear brief. I really appreciated that. And it was like this, like, we need more exhibition space, we want a roof terrace, and we potentially want to knock down the fencing off like the land behind. And then I was spending a Sunday afternoon writing a text and doing a kind of collage. So I had something in mind immediately, and for me it was also, I knew the Nubuka crowns very well before, so I was always in love with this Indian almond tree. And then it was somehow also with the garden or the entire Nubuka crowns, and so the first sketch was already like the idea to design something which is hovering above the garden, and to make it a kind of courtyard situation where the Indian almond tree is in the center. And then I received a response not so much later that apparently they asked another handful of architects to come up with an idea. It was a kind of mini competition situation. And I was the only one not proposing to knock down the existing structure. And that was surprising to me because that would never ever have come to my mind. And then it was like that. Jürgen Strohmeyer, he was like a student of mine and a collaborator of mine, and I asked him if he would be interested in working for me on this project. And then very quickly I decided that we do it in equal partnership. And I mean, the orientation of the structure is really in the main wind direction. It was also clear from the client that they wanted that they want natural ventilation, not a space which is like closed and AC. So I think even if one might think like it's not at all sustainable because it's exposed concrete, there is a lot of like measures on the climatic level to make it function. So we oriented it in the main wind direction. We also looked into the sun directions, and also like turned this idea of like the roof terrace, even if there is a roof terrace, like that you have a kind of shaded space underneath. And to me it was also always relevant that it's a compound you navigate, so it's not just an object of architecture, but that there is a lot of niches and possibilities to play with the outside and underneath, and that it's not only a classic indoor space where you put paintings on the walls. Another thing was also like, I'm totally in love with the work of Al Anatwi and Ibrahim Mahama, and that was already back then, of course. So like the railing system was also like a kind of measure to go beyond just paintings on walls, but the possibility to hang textile art and also to play with the facades. There's also railing systems outside.
I do get it, because I do remember, I don't know, it was a while back, there was an exhibition. I've forgotten the artist, but it was a lot of, shall I say, leather that was cut up in leaves, and it filled the space, especially the topmost part.
All in black, right?
Pardon? Yes, all in black, exactly.
Lois is her name, yeah.
Lois, yes, yes. It was immersive in a way, and with the way the space just contained it, and there was a bit of light from the other side, from the pivot windows or doors. I mean, it was a great experience because not only was the art telling a story, but the gallery also helped it to tell that story.
Yeah.
And
I love this exhibition. She really worked with the space. Yeah.
Yes, yes, she really did. She really did. It was a great thing to see, honestly. So from that, people have used the space for so many things, not only to exhibit art. Because I've seen that the ground, especially the ground floor, people have held some gatherings there for various other things. So would you say it's gone beyond the use in which was intended for, or it's just as you planned?
Honestly, I knew Nubuke quite well. I attended a lot of spoken word events, exhibitions, etc. before, so I knew that there would be also different target groups, that there would be workshops with kids, etc. So I was aware of this diversity of programs and people and kinds of events, also in between renting out for outsiders to use the venue, and we really actively try to react on that. For example, there was a container previously on a platform, and we shifted the container, which is now a library and a kitchen, not designed by us, but we shifted the container, and this platform was meant to become a stage with the palms in the background. And I think at the moment there is tables and benches and you can sit there and work or rest or eat. So that was intentional, that you have this platform and the palm trees behind, and that this is a space for performances. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to another project of yours. That would be, I think, Hadua Apata. Let's talk about that.
Very interesting. So it was that an artist friend of mine, Bernard Akko Jackson, he talked about that he's close to a German, actually, Petra Krohn, who was the head of the board of Hadua, and that she's looking for an architect, and that there is this beautiful land at the coast, and it should become a future performing arts institution. And then we met, and then from experience, I was a bit critical in starting an entire institution from scratch, because that often doesn't function budget-wise, and so then I somehow rejected to design a master plan, but I proposed to bring in students. So I shifted this project from a request to NAFS to applied foreign affairs, and then also thinking what is the core of a performing arts institution, and that's definitely a stage. And then so I shifted it from so to say master planning urban scale to architecture scale, and then I thought it would be very interesting to even go further and start the entire design process from the human body. And that was then a really beautiful work process that Petra Krohn was teaching at Legon in the School of Performing Arts at that time, and also Sir Plek, a performing artist very known in Accra. So both of them brought students of performing arts, and I brought students of architecture, and we really investigated the site and the beachfront to identify the acoustics and the environmental situation, the wind directions, to decide where to put a staging ground. And then when I talk about this project, I always wrap it up in that the materiality and orientation is informed by the cultural context, the environmental context, and that figure of the space, like being open from different sides, is like the cultural context. So we looked a lot into performative situations in Ghana, in like other outside art events such as funerals, etc. And it's never frontal. It's always like that there is something happening and people come from all sides. And that was also like informing the plan. So I say the plan or the floor plan is informed by the cultural context and the materiality and orientation by the environmental context, which is like wind direction, sun, and then also the availability of bamboo.
That's true. Yeah. So, I mean, with it being open on all sides, there's no fixed stage, if you say so. Then there's always that possibility of different shows or different performing experiences, just deciding what exactly to do.
Yeah, I mean, the idea was, for example, if there would be a concert like with, like, I don't know, 500 people, then the musician and the band are under the dome and the audience is outside in the field in front of it. And if there is something more intimate, everything is happening under the bamboo dome, and that you can orient how you want. I mean, there had been designs for several designs for like also sealing the ground, but there was also a bit of a pause then in the continuation in this project. And
will there be a chance of it continuing?
I mean, Sir Black and I, we are on it.
All right.
It only goes very slow, and that's one of these projects where I have this commitment long term. We also brought a team, because this was like realized in 2013, and we brought back a team of students in 2000. I think it was 22, to look into a next design phase.
That's cool. So let's see. You are a professor, you're a practicing architect, and I also know you're a curator of arts and other exhibitions. For me, is it safe to say your design projects and research have sort of combined to allow you to create so many exhibitions and so many things? What has come of it, and when did you begin to start engaging in that space?
I mean, I think it's all one thing for me. And as I said before, I think it's also a bit our time that thinking across scales. So for me, it's like if we design a bench, or if we design an entire strategy for a village, it's somehow the same. And I think as architects, we are trained to think complex processes. And I think, I mean, of course, which I haven't mentioned yet, AFA is conceptualized transdisciplinary. So we work with scientists from the UDS in Tamala, or we work with artists. So we are also aware of the limits of architects or architecture. I mean, then if you do a research and then you get an invitation to an architecture biennial, then you think of how translating that. And that is also the reason why, for example, at the Rotterdam Architecture Biennial or Chicago Architecture Biennial, I ended up showing videos, because that was then an easy and accessible medium to translate and share certain work processes. And I love curating and exhibition designing, because I love to work with artists on the one hand. It's relational again, which is one of my interests. And then also what is very rewarding if you design an exhibition, that you see something grow very quickly, in opposite to architecture where it takes years often. So the design and the research is definitely informing each other. I also believe in non-linear work processes, like that you potentially build something, but then you go back to a design phase, so that it's not like one after the other. especially like when you work for long periods, there is a lot of potential, and also the necessity to look really back in what is the situation now, and is that still valid, what we thought 2 years ago.
Okay.
So this is like this non-linear thing, and then it's very helpful to switch between researching and designing, and then also translating certain works in formats such as videos, and then it goes towards the art field. Yeah. Also, like what I also cultivate a lot and love is like these pop-up exhibitions in the context where we research. That we would be in a neighborhood in Tamale, which is called Waterworks, and investigated that, and then we go back and do the exhibition for like a full day there. So it takes a lot of effort to set it up and prepare, but then you have the farmers doing the inner urban farming coming, and you have other audiences, and it's more inclusive and not exclusive art audiences.
So what's the feedback from them when they pass through the exhibitions and see?
I mean, of course, like people like to see themselves on photos. They like also to see that someone listened to them, and a student, and translated that, and in that also a work is informed by what was like shared.
Okay.
And also, like, I mean, visual material is always like, it's beyond language, like verbal language, and therefore it's a good way to communicate. If you print out something and hang it in the tree. Yeah.
So let's say, how do you go about creating certain pieces for your exhibitions? What makes you decide that this is quite important to display or to show the world that this needs to be seen?
I mean, there is certain topics, and then in between one reflects and sees like that there is longer term interest. I received this invitation now. There is a beautiful show up at SCCA in Tamale, Ibrahim Space. Robin Riskin, she's a curator from Kumasi, curated an all-female artist show, and I'm very proud to be part of that, because it's like Ghanaian and Ghana related, and I'm not yet Ghanaian. And then I identified my interest in floorscapes in Ghana, which started in Kumasi 25 years ago, and it's ongoing, like this idea of that there is sealed surfaces and they are appropriated by people, but then they also like erode, and now we are in a time where we also think more about vegetation and the animal world, and that this is also then coming in again. That and so I produced a video which is spanning my interest in floorscapes in Ghana over 23 years. So it's to me, of course, all these interests are related.
Right.
And then I decide what I feel is relevant to share.
I think that's important, because I mean, you have to make a decision on what is to be shown and not what somebody would want to see. I would say there's a purpose to everything that you do. So if you can, what do you think that would be? What would be the one single purpose that you think drives everything you do?
I think there is not a single purpose.
Okay.
I see now because I never saw myself as a teacher somehow. I wanted to work with young people in a kind of collective situation, doing interesting stuff, because you can afford more experimental work in academia than outside. And now I see that there is certain people who have been participating in Applied Foreign Affairs, and they are very visible as architects and creatives in Ghana and beyond. And I'm proud of that. So
you can apply to be part of Applied Foreign Affairs?
Yeah, people who have, people like Jürgen Strohmeier, Dominique Petit Frère. There is so many who somehow built up also an entire career on like having been participating in a certain Applied Foreign Affairs lab, and then continuing in this direction. So I think also like that through that work, it's a kind of multiplication in the next generation. So I'm happy and proud of that. And no, I mean, I just want to do interesting work, and I think there is a need to tackle certain topics, and I want to do that. And yeah.
Yeah, I do like that. So let's see, what's next for you, for Nerves, and then for Applied Foreign Affairs?
I mean, I stepped back from my deanship in April and to focus again more on applied foreign affairs. I also want to do more architectural work again. So at the moment, I feel a lot of energy and enthusiasm to dive into new projects and continue with the existing ones, continuing in Tamale, as I mentioned before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. We are almost at the end, so this is probably just the last question. Is there anything that I haven't maybe asked you or you haven't talked about that you'd really like to mention?
Not really. I think this was a beautiful conversation,
Really?
and I think you try to get everything out of it.
I'm sorry if it was a bit too much or too pushy.
No, absolutely not. I really enjoyed this.
So I think it's been great so far. Thank you for coming, for talking with me. I've learned quite a lot from what you do, from what you've done, and hopefully I get to see more of what you're going to do, because it would be great to know certain touch points that communities can benefit from your work, and also from the work of architects, like we talked before. There's so many things that architects can offer that doesn't have to be just buildings. Yeah, and so hopefully other people can join in and just make sure the work is done for the people and not for themselves as well. Yeah, so thank you again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
No, it was my pleasure.